I've been in this room for 63 days. 63 days in a space roughly 12 feet by 12 feet, suspended 60 feet above the Cooper River, with the entire western span of the Morrison Street Bridge locked in permanent vertical position beneath me. The control house, that's what the plaque outside calls it, though I haven't been able to read it since day 2 when the blood spray obscured most of the brass lettering, was built in 1889. Victorian era. All brass fittings and original maplewood panels, and these enormous iron gears that look like something from a Jules Verne fever dream. The windows don't open. That's important. I didn't realize how important that would be until the 3rd day, when I watched Marcus Johnson from the coffee shop on Riverside try to climb the exterior maintenance ladder, and I couldn't do anything but watch through the glass as they pulled him down into the water. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were when I did the inspection reports, which everyone hated because it meant climbing up here to the control house and manually checking every gauge and gear mechanism because the city never bothered to modernize this bridge. Historic landmark, they said. Architectural preservation, they said. What they meant was they didn't want to spend the money to update a bridge that only opened twice a day for barge traffic. I was a bridge operator, 23 years old, degree in mechanical engineering that I wasn't using, drowning in student loans, living in a shitty studio apartment 6 blocks from here, and every day I climbed 183 steps up the interior of the southern tower to reach this control house and operate a bridge designed when my great-great-grandparents were children. The morning it happened, I was up here running through my checklist. Oil levels in the gearboxes? Check. Hydraulic pressure in the secondary systems? Check. Structural integrity of the counterweight cables? Check. The radio crackled with the usual chatter from the harbor master's office. A fuel barge was scheduled for 10:15 a.m., meaning I'd need to halt traffic and raise the bridge. I was drinking coffee from the thermos I'd brought. Bad coffee. The cheap stuff because I couldn't afford the good beans anymore after my rent went up. Looking back, I can still taste it, burnt, bitter, with that metallic undertone from the thermos I'd owned since college. The radio crackled again. Different voice this time. Strained. All units, we have reports of static. Violent incident at Morrison and 5th, more static. Multiple casualties, advise. I turned up the volume. Through the southern windows, I could see down Morrison Street into the commercial district. Normal Tuesday morning traffic, people walking to work with their coffee cups and their phones, a bus stopping at the corner. The radio went crazy. Multiple voices overlapping, shouting, words tumbling over each other so fast I could barely parse them. Hospital, outbreak, containment. Don't let them bite you. Lock the doors. Oh God, there's so many. I stood up fast enough that my chair, original to the control house, wooden with a cracked leather seat, rolled backward and hit the southern control panel. Through the windows, I watched the bus at Morrison and 5th. Its doors were open. People were getting off, but they weren't walking away. They were running. Then I saw why. A woman in a hospital gown was chasing a man in a business suit. She moved wrong, too fast but also too jerky, like her body was operating on a different set of instructions than it should. She caught him at the corner. He went down. She went down with him. Even from up here, even through 60 feet of elevation and distance, I could see the spray of red against the concrete. More people were running now. Dozens, pouring out of buildings, out of cars that had stopped in the middle of the street. And behind them, following them, were more of those wrong-moving figures. Some in hospital gowns, some in regular clothes, some in uniforms. I saw a postal worker, a police officer, a woman in a Starbucks apron. The radio had devolved into pure chaos, screaming, gunfire, someone crying, someone praying. I should have left right then, should have locked the control house and climbed down those 183 steps and gotten to my car and driven anywhere else. But I stood there, frozen, watching the street below transform into something from a nightmare. Watching people I probably knew, I'd lived in this neighborhood for 3 years, tear each other apart. A crowd surged onto the bridge, the western approach, the one that led into downtown. They were running toward the eastern shore, toward the suburbs, toward anywhere that wasn't here. Behind them came the infected. That's what I started calling them in my head, because I couldn't process what I was seeing any other way. The infected. They caught the runners on the bridge deck, 60 feet below me. I watched through the western windows as the crowd fragmented, as people were pulled down, as the infection spread person to person to person like a fire jumping from roof to roof. Cars had piled up on both approaches. Some drivers had tried to turn around. Some had abandoned their vehicles entirely. A semi-truck had jackknifed across the eastern lanes, and I could see the driver trapped in the cab, pounding on the windows as figures surrounded him. That's when I made the decision that saved my life and condemned me to this small room. I raised the bridge. The controls are all manual, big brass levers and wheels that engage the original Victorian-era mechanisms. You have to release the traffic gates first. That's the red lever on the left panel. Then you disengage the deck locks, the series of switches on the right. Then, and only then, can you activate the main lift system. It's powered by a combination of counterweights and hydraulics. When you turn the primary wheel, it's massive, like a ship's wheel but heavier, requiring both hands and genuine strength. You release the counterweights in the towers. They drop, their cables pull, and the bridge deck splits at the center and begins to rise. I'd done it thousands of times, literally thousands, in all kinds of weather, for barges and maintenance, and the occasional tall ship that came up the river for festivals. I did it that Tuesday with my hands shaking so hard I could barely grip the wheel. The bridge deck groaned as it began to rise. The sound echoed up through the tower structure, metal on metal, cables singing with tension, gears engaging with the deep, grinding noise that tourists always found charming, and I'd learned to tune out. Below, on the deck, the infected and their victims were still fighting. But as the bridge split and the two halves began their upward arc, the angle changed. People lost their footing. Some grabbed onto the railings, others slid toward the growing gap in the center. Watch people fall into the river, dozens of them. The infected fell too, tumbling end over end into the Cooper's muddy water. The bridge rose to full vertical, both halves pointing at the sky like a giant's hands pressed together in prayer. The control house shuddered with the final engagement of the locking mechanisms. Through the windows, I could see the deck 60 feet below me, now perpendicular to the water, covered in abandoned cars and debris and blood. So much blood. I locked it there, set the mechanisms to hold. The bridge wouldn't move again unless someone came up here and manually lowered it. That was 63 days ago. The first week was the worst for noise. Constant sirens, gunfire, explosions from somewhere downtown, helicopters overhead at all hours. The radio continued broadcasting for 3 days before it went to static. The last transmission I heard was from the National Guard, saying they were establishing a safe zone at the airport, and all survivors should proceed there in an orderly fashion. I watched through the southern windows as people tried to reach the airport. I watched the infected pull them down. By day 5, the power grid failed. The control house has some emergency lighting, battery-powered LEDs that the city installed 10 years ago, but they only last 6 hours when activated. I use them sparingly now, mostly to navigate at night when I need the bathroom. Oh, right. The bathroom. There isn't one. The control house was designed for shifts, not for living. Operators were supposed to come up, manage the bridge openings, and leave. There's a small utility closet on the northern wall where previous operators stored cleaning supplies and spare parts. That closet is now where I handle my biological necessities, using a bucket I found under the main control panel. The smell was unbearable for the first 2 weeks. Then my nose adjusted, or maybe I stopped caring. Hard to say which. Water was the first critical problem I faced. The control house doesn't have plumbing. I had my thermos, about 16 ounces of coffee that I finished on day 1. After that, nothing. It rained on day 3. Heavy October rain that came in from the coast and lasted 14 hours. I used every container I could find, the bucket, the thermos, 3 coffee cups from the small cabinet, a metal toolbox I emptied out. I set them on the exterior catwalk. The catwalk. I should explain that. The control house has a narrow maintenance catwalk that wraps around the exterior. It's maybe 2 feet wide, with a railing that comes up to my waist. Original to the 1889 construction, iron that's been painted and repainted dozens of times. It's how workers access the exterior lamps and the flag mounts and the various mechanical components bolted to the tower's exterior. There's a door on the eastern wall that leads out to it. Heavy wood reinforced with iron bands. It has 3 locks, 2 original slide bolts, and 1 modern deadbolt the city added in the 90s after some teenagers managed to break in and spray paint obscenities on the southern windows. On day 3, I opened that door for the first time since raising the bridge. The wind hit me like a physical force. 60 feet up, fully exposed to the weather coming off the river, it was strong enough that I had to grab the railing with both hands. The catwalk was wet with rain, slippery. I could hear the river below, swollen with rainfall, rushing against the bridge towers, and I could hear them, the infected, on both shores, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, some wandering aimlessly, others clustered around buildings or cars, their sounds carried on the wind, moaning, clicking, this wet breathing noise that didn't sound remotely human. I placed my containers along the catwalk, spaced out to catch the most rain. Then, I retreated back inside and locked all 3 locks. I collected maybe half a gallon of water that day, rationed it carefully, learned to survive on sips. It's rained 11 times since then. I've gotten better at collection, found more containers, figured out the angle to place them for maximum capture. I have roughly 3 gallons stored now in various vessels arranged along the northern wall. Some of it has mosquito larvae. I drink it anyway. Food was the second problem. The control house isn't stocked for survival. There's a small cabinet on the western wall where previous operators kept personal items. When I inventoried it on day 1, I found half a box of granola bars, 6 bars, peanut butter flavor, expired 2 months ago, a can of mixed nuts, partially eaten, about a quarter full, 3 packets of instant coffee, a jar of hard candies, mostly butterscotch, some wrapped in lint, 2 protein bars in the cabinet's back corner, chocolate chip also expired, a mostly empty container of instant oatmeal. That was it, my entire food supply. I calculated it out. If I rationed carefully, maybe 2 weeks of calories. 3 if I pushed it. I pushed it to 5 weeks. The granola bars went first. 1 bar every 4 days, broken into small pieces, eaten slowly. The nuts I rationed even more carefully, 5 nuts per day, chewed thoroughly. The protein bars I saved for emergencies, for days when the hunger was so bad I couldn't think straight. The hard candies saved my life. I don't mean that metaphorically. The sugar, small as it was, kept my blood glucose from crashing completely. I allowed myself 2 candies per day, sometimes 3 if I'd had to exert myself, like the time I had to manually reposition one of the counterweight mechanisms that was grinding. I ran out of food on day 37. I've been without food for 26 days now. The human body can survive a surprisingly long time without food if it has water. I know this now in a way I never wanted to learn. The first week without food was agonizing. Constant hunger pangs, headaches, weakness. The second week, the hunger dulled into a persistent ache. Now it's just part of existence, like the smell from the bucket or the sound of the infected below. I've lost weight. Enough that my belt no longer holds my pants up properly, and I've punched 2 new holes in the leather with a screwdriver from the toolkit. My reflection in the dark windows at night shows someone I barely recognize. Gaunt face, sunken eyes, hair that's grown shaggy and unkempt. But I'm alive. That counts for something. The bridge has become an island. The vertical deck sections make it impossible for the infected to cross the river here. They congregate on both shores instead, drawn by some instinct I don't understand. During the day, I can see them clearly. Hundreds on the western shore near downtown, fewer on the eastern side, but still dozens. They don't seem to decay, or if they do, it's happening slowly. The ones I've been watching since the first week still look largely intact. They move. They attack anything that moves near them. Birds have learned to avoid the area. I watched a dog get caught on the eastern shore on day 12. German Shepherd, still wearing a collar. It was trying to scavenge something from an overturned trash can. 3 infected were on it in seconds. I turned away from the window before they finished. The nights are the hardest. During the day, I have tasks. I check the bridge mechanisms, not because they need checking, but because having a routine keeps me sane. I monitor my water supply. I ration out my sips, watch the shores, and count the infected, and try to spot any signs of rescue or other survivors. At night, there's nothing but darkness and sound. The infected are more active after sunset. I don't know why. Maybe the darkness triggers something in their infected brains, some predatory instinct. They move more, vocalize more. The sounds echo across the water and up the tower structure. Sometimes I can hear them on the bridge approaches, scrabbling at the deck, trying to figure out how to climb the vertical surface. They can't, of course. The deck is smooth steel and concrete at a 90-degree angle, but they try anyway, and the sound of their hands scraping against metal carries up to the control house with perfect clarity. I don't sleep much anymore, maybe 2 or 3 hours a night, in brief snatches, sitting in the old wooden chair with my back against the southern control panel. I dream about food mostly. Ridiculous, elaborate dreams about breakfast buffets and pizza and my mom's pot roast. I wake up with my mouth watering and my stomach cramping and the reality of my situation crashing back down. The control house has become its own small world. I know every inch of it now. Every crack in the maple panels, every rust spot on the brass fittings, every scratch in the old glass windows. The windows are the worst part of this place, which is also the best part. They wrap around all 4 walls, floor to ceiling, giving me a 360-degree view of everything. During the day, I can see for miles, the city sprawling to the west, the suburbs to the east, the river snaking north and south. At night, with no power anywhere, it's just blackness punctuated by the occasional fire still burning somewhere in the ruins. I can see everything, and I can do nothing. On day 8, I watched a group of survivors try to cross the eastern bridge approach on foot. 7 people, moving carefully, armed with what looked like baseball bats and a hunting rifle. They made it maybe 50 yards before the infected swarmed them from a building I hadn't realized was occupied. I couldn't hear the screams from up here, just watched tiny figures fall and not get up. On day 19, a boat came up the river. Small fishing boat, 2 people aboard. I shouted myself hoarse, trying to get their attention, pounding on the windows, waving my arms. They never looked up, never saw me. They continued upriver, and I never saw them again. On day 41, a military helicopter flew over. Close enough that I could see the door gunner, see the faces of the crew. I was out on the catwalk in seconds, waving both arms, jumping up and down despite the weakness in my legs. The helicopter circled the bridge twice. Then it flew away. Maybe they didn't see me. Maybe they saw me and had nowhere to land. No way to extract someone from a bridge tower 60 feet in the air. Maybe they had orders not to stop for lone survivors. I'll never know. I cried for the first time after that helicopter left. Sat in the middle of the control house floor with my back against the brass gearbox housing and cried until I had no tears left. Waste of water, probably. But I couldn't stop. The mechanisms around me tick and groan with temperature changes. The counterweights shift infinitesimally on their cables. The whole structure expands slightly during the day when the sun heats the metal, then contracts at night when it cools. I've learned to interpret these sounds. I know the difference between normal structural settling and the concerning groan that means something needs adjustment. On day 23, one of the counterweight cables developed a fray. I could hear it singing with stress every time the wind pushed against the raised bridge deck. If it snapped, the whole system could fail catastrophically. The deck might drop, or worse, come crashing down unevenly and tear itself apart. I spent 6 hours on the catwalk that day in freezing rain, using tools from the maintenance kit to adjust the cable tension and redistribute the load. My hands were numb. My clothes were soaked through. I could hear the infected below, agitated by my movement and noise. But I fixed it. Because if the bridge fails, I die. Simple as that. The tools in the maintenance kit have become precious to me. There's a full set of wrenches, various screwdrivers, a hammer, wire cutters, electrical tape, a coil of steel cable, and a hand-cranked drill that looks older than I am. I've organized them by size along the southern wall, arranged just so. I check them daily to make sure they're all still there, even though nothing could have taken them. I think I'm going a little crazy. No, I know I'm going crazy. Sane people don't talk to bridge mechanisms. Sane people don't name the brass fittings. Sane people don't spend an hour arranging and rearranging their meager possessions for no reason other than to have something to do. I've named the main gear assembly Margaret after my grandmother. It's ridiculous, I know. But Margaret the gear assembly is reliable and sturdy, and she keeps grinding away no matter what, which is exactly how my grandmother was before she died. When I oil Margaret's teeth, I do this twice a week using lubricant from a drum in the utility closet. I talk to her. Tell her about my day, which is insane because my day is identical to every other day, but I do it anyway. The 4 main windows I've named after compass directions, obviously, but I've also assigned them personalities. North is optimistic, always showing me the river continuing into the distance, suggesting the world goes on. South is brutally honest, showing me the city in ruins. East is nostalgic, pointing toward the suburbs where I grew up. West is cruel, displaying the downtown area where I watched everything fall apart. I spend a lot of time with North. The river itself has become a clock. I've learned to read the tides, track the debris flowing past, estimate the time of day by the angle of sunlight on the water. Morning sun hits the eastern tower first, creeps across the water, illuminates the control house around 7:30 a.m. this time of year. Sunset happens behind the western cityscape around 6:45 p.m. Between those hours, I have my routine. Wake up, if I slept. Check water supply. Allow myself 3 sips, held in my mouth as long as possible before swallowing. Check the mechanisms. Margaret first, then the secondary gears, then the cable tensions, then the hydraulic pressure gauges. Circle the interior of the control house, looking through each window in sequence, counting infected on the shores. The counts have been dropping. I don't know if that's good or bad. On day 1, I counted over 300 visible infected on the western shore alone. This morning I counted 72. Either they're dispersing into the city, or something is happening to them, or I'm getting worse at counting. All 3 possibilities disturb me. After counting, I usually spend time watching specific infected. I've started recognizing individuals. There's one on the eastern shore who's wearing what's left of a UPS uniform. Brown shorts, brown shirt, that distinctive brown. He patrols the same section of riverbank every day, walking back and forth like he's still making deliveries. I call him Doug because he looks like a Doug. There's a female infected near the western bridge approach who's missing her left arm below the elbow. She stands near an overturned ice cream truck for hours at a time, swaying slightly, like she's listening to music I can't hear. I call her Sarah. I don't know why I do this. Maybe it makes them seem less like monsters. Maybe it's just something to occupy my brain during the endless, empty hours. Around midday, determined by the sun directly overhead, I usually do maintenance work. If nothing needs fixing, I clean. There isn't much to clean in a 12 by 12 room with no running water, but I wipe down the control panels with a dry rag. I sweep the floor with a broom I found in the utility closet. I organize the tools. Afternoons I spend on the catwalk if the weather permits. Not because I need to be out there, But because the control house gets claustrophobic, the walls close in. I need to see the sky, even if the sky is just gray clouds or harsh sun. The catwalk is dangerous when it's wet or icy, and it's been icy a lot lately. November is cold here, and December will be worse. I've slipped twice, once catching myself on the railing hard enough to bruise my ribs, once going to my knees and skinning both palms on the rough iron grating. But it's worth it for the space, the air, the illusion of not being trapped. Because I am trapped. Absolutely, completely trapped. The only way down from this control house is the interior stairs in the southern tower, and those stairs are compromised. I know this because on day 4, when I still thought escape might be possible, I opened the interior door and looked. The door is on the southern wall, heavy steel, marked Tower Access, Authorized Personnel Only. It opens inward into the control house. Beyond it is a landing, and beyond that, the stairs spiral down inside the tower structure. Except the stairs aren't empty anymore. When I opened that door on day 4, the smell hit me first. Rot and worse things. The landing was dark. The tower has no windows, but I had a flashlight from the maintenance kit. I shined it down the spiral stairs. There were bodies on the first landing, at least 3, maybe more, too decayed to count clearly. And beyond them, further down, I could hear movement, shuffling, that wet breathing sound. The infected had gotten into the tower somehow, maybe through the ground-level access door, maybe through a maintenance hatch I didn't know about. However they got in, they were there, trapped in the spiral stairwell, unable to climb the stairs to reach me but making descent impossible. I closed the door, locked it, shoved the wooden chair under the handle as an extra precaution. That was 59 days ago and I haven't opened it since. So I'm trapped. 60 feet up, in a 12 by 12 room with no food, limited water, and no way down. The infected own the shores. The tower stairs are impassable. Even if I could somehow rappel down the exterior using the steel cable from the maintenance kit, I'd land directly in the middle of infected territory with no vehicle, no weapons, and a body weakened by starvation. The logical part of my brain knows I'm going to die here. The stubborn part of my brain refuses to accept that. I've been thinking about the boat I saw on day 19. If one boat made it upriver, others might. The river is the one route the infected can't easily block. If I could signal a boat, get their attention, maybe they could get close enough to the tower base for me to climb down. I've been working on a plan. The control house has emergency signal flags in a cabinet on the eastern wall. They're meant for communication with ship traffic in case the radio fails. Different colored flags that spell out different messages in maritime signal code. I've pulled them all out, assessed what I have. Red flag, white flag, blue flag, yellow flag, and a checkered black and white flag. Plus, the various number pennants and letter pennants. Most of them are faded and moth-eaten, but still recognizable. I could fly these from the catwalk. Make the control house visible, notable, a clear signal that someone is here and alive. Ships look for signal flags. It's basic maritime protocol. The problem is that flying flags might also attract attention I don't want. The helicopter on day 41 proved that people can see the control house from the air. Military or government forces might be watching the area. If they see signals, they might come to investigate, or they might ignore it like that helicopter did. I've been debating this for 3 days now. Fly the flags or don't. Signal for help or stay hidden. This morning I decided I'm flying the flags because the alternative is sitting here until I'm too weak to move, until the dehydration or starvation finally shuts my body down and I refuse to go quietly. If I'm going to die in this Victorian bridge tower, I'm going to die trying. I'm going to wait until dawn tomorrow. Better visibility. And I'm going to run every flag up the exterior mounts, maximum visibility, and I'm going to hope that someone somewhere sees them and understands. It's a long shot, probably a futile gesture, but it's something, and something is better than nothing. The sun is setting now. West is showing me the city in silhouette. Buildings gutted and empty, streets choked with debris, smoke still rising from a few persistent fires. The river is turning gold with the last light, beautiful and terrible. I take my evening water ration. 3 sips. The water tastes like plastic and mosquito larvae and desperation. Tomorrow I fly the flags. Tomorrow I make my stand, such as it is. Tonight, I sit in the wooden chair and watch the darkness come. Day 64. I'm awake before sunrise, which isn't hard because I barely slept. The cold woke me multiple times. November nights are brutal up here with no heat, just the residual warmth from the day bleeding out through the glass windows. I've been sleeping in every layer of clothing I own, plus a canvas tarp I found in the utility closet wrapped around me like a blanket. The sun rises over the eastern suburbs at 6:47 a.m. I know this because I've been watching it rise in exactly the same spot for 63 days. Consistency, reliability, things I can count on when everything else has fallen apart. I eat nothing because I have nothing to eat. I drink my morning water ration, 3 sips that I spread over 10 minutes, letting each sip coat my mouth before swallowing. Then, I gather the signal flags. There are 17 flags total, in various states of decay. I select the best preserved ones. The red flag means stop or danger. The yellow flag means quarantine or disease aboard. And the white flag means surrender or need assistance. Together they send a clear message. Danger, disease, need help. Exactly what I need to communicate. The flag mounts are on the catwalk, one on each side of the control house. They're simple brackets bolted to the railing, designed to hold the flag's wooden poles at an angle. I've tested them already. They're solid, despite their age. I unlock the eastern door, slide back the 2 original bolts, turn the modern deadbolt, pull the heavy wood inward. The morning air rushes in, cold enough to steal my breath. The sky is clear for once, no clouds, just pale November blue stretching to every horizon. The catwalk is slick with frost. I step carefully, one hand on the railing at all times. The iron is painfully cold, even through my gloves. Work gloves I found in the maintenance kit, leather palms worn smooth. Below, the river is calm, gray-green water reflecting the dawn sky. A dead tree floats past, heading downstream, bare branches reaching up like fingers. On the western shore, I can see infected starting to move as the light increases. They're more active during the day, I've noticed. Something about sunlight triggers movement in them. Doug, the UPS infected, is already on his patrol route on the eastern shore. I mount the red flag first, on the eastern bracket. The pole slides into the mount easily. The flag catches the light wind immediately, snapping out to full extension, bright red against the pale sky, visible for miles. My hands are shaking, and not just from the cold. Yellow flag goes on the southern bracket. I have to walk around the catwalk to reach it, past the windows that show me the ruined city, past the point where the tower structure narrows slightly, and the catwalk is barely 18 inches wide. I don't look down. Looking down is a bad idea. The yellow flag deploys successfully. 2 flags now, crimson and gold, announcing my presence to anyone who might be watching. White flag for the western bracket. This one takes longer because the pole is cracked halfway up, and I need to reinforce it with electrical tape from the maintenance kit. I work slowly, carefully, because dropping the flag means it's gone forever, 60 feet down to the bridge deck or the water, and I have no way to retrieve it. The tape holds. The flag goes up. White fabric stained with age and mildew, but clearly white, clearly visible. I save the northern bracket for last. This is the direction the river flows from, the direction that boat came from on day 19. This is where rescue would come from, if rescue comes at all. I've chosen a special flag for this mount. The checkered flag, black and white squares in a diagonal pattern. In maritime code, it doesn't have a specific meaning, but it's distinctive, eye-catching, impossible to miss. I'm mounting it when I hear the sound. At first I think it's wind, just the breeze picking up. channeling through the bridge structure. But it's too regular for wind, too rhythmic. It's an engine. I freeze on the catwalk, hands gripping the flagpole, and listen. The sound is distant but getting closer, coming from the north, from upriver. A boat. I abandon the flag, leave it dangling half-mounted, and move to the northern edge of the catwalk. My heart is pounding hard enough that I can feel it in my throat. The engine sound is definitely growing louder. There. Coming around the river bend, maybe half a mile upstream. A boat. Mid-sized, maybe 25 feet. White hull with a blue stripe. Moving fast, cutting a wake through the calm water. I start waving my arms, shouting even though they can't possibly hear me over the engine noise and the distance. "Here, I'm here, help!" The boat continues downriver, following the channel. It's not slowing. They haven't seen me. I run back into the control house, nearly slip on the frost, catch myself on the doorframe, and grab the largest piece of reflective material I can find. It's a sheet of aluminum from the utility closet, maybe 2 feet square, something left over from some ancient repair job. Back outside, the boat is closer now, maybe a quarter mile. I can see 2 people aboard, one driving, one sitting in the bow. I angle the aluminum sheet to catch the sun. The reflection is brilliant, blinding. I sweep it back and forth, creating a strobe effect, flashing light that has to be visible from the boat. "Look up! Please look up!" The boat continues. Doesn't slow, doesn't deviate from its course. They're going to pass right underneath the bridge, directly below me, and they're not going to look up. Unless... I drop the aluminum sheet and run back inside, to the main control panel. Margaret the gear assembly sits there, patient and massive. The bridge has been locked in vertical position for 64 days, but the mechanisms still work. The hydraulics still have pressure. The counterweights are balanced and ready. I could lower the bridge. The sound would be enormous. The movement would be impossible to miss. Anyone on that boat would look up to see what was making that noise. But lowering the bridge means reconnecting the 2 shore approaches. It means the infected on both sides can cross. It means destroying the one barrier that's kept them separated, kept the eastern shore slightly safer than the western. It also means I can't raise it again, not without help. The mechanism takes enormous effort to operate, and I'm not sure I have the strength anymore. Lowering it would be a one-time thing. The boat is 300 yards away now, seconds from being directly underneath me. I grab the main control wheel, Margaret's wheel. The brass is cold under my hands. Do I do this? Do I risk everything for a chance they might see me, might stop, might help? 200 yards. I think about dying alone in this room. I think about the starvation continuing day after day until I'm too weak to stand. I think about the bucket in the utility closet and the stale water in the endless cold nights. 100 yards. I turn the wheel. The mechanism fights me. 64 days of being locked in position has made everything stiff. The initial resistance is incredible. I have to throw my entire body weight into it, muscles screaming, vision going gray at the edges from the effort. Margaret groans, deep in her gear teeth, metal grinding against metal. The sound echoes through the tower structure. 50 yards, the wheel turns, slowly, so slowly, fighting me every inch. But it turns. The locks disengage with a clang that makes my ears ring. The counterweights shift. The bridge deck begins to lower. The sound is apocalyptic. Tons of steel and concrete moving after months of stillness. Cables singing with released tension. Gears engaging in sequence, each one adding its voice to the cacophony. The entire tower structure vibrates with it. The boat is directly underneath when the deck begins its descent. 20 yards below the control house, the 2 halves of the bridge deck swing downward from their vertical position, moving toward horizontal. I'm back on the catwalk, leaning over the railing, screaming, "Stop! Look up, please!" The person in the bow looks up. Our eyes meet. Maybe. It's hard to tell from this distance, but I think our eyes meet. He's male, maybe 40, wearing a heavy jacket. His mouth opens. He's saying something to the driver. The driver looks up too. The boat slows, engines cutting to idle. They're drifting now, in the shadow of the descending bridge deck, staring up at me. I'm waving both arms, pointing at myself. At the control house, making any gesture I can think of that conveys, "Survivor, help, please help." The bridge deck is at 45 degrees now, still descending. Below, on both shores, the infected are reacting to the noise. They're swarming toward the bridge approaches, drawn by the sound and movement. The man in the bow is gesturing to the driver, pointing at me, then at the shore, then at the water. Some kind of discussion is happening. The driver is shaking his head. No. He's saying no. The boat engines rev. They're moving again, backing away from the bridge. "Wait, please wait, don't leave me here." The bridge deck reaches 30 degrees. The two halves will lock horizontal in maybe another minute. The grinding of the mechanisms is deafening. The boat is reversing, putting distance between itself and the bridge. The man in the bow is still looking up at me, but the driver is focused on navigation, steering them back into the main channel. They're leaving. They saw me. They know I'm here. They're leaving anyway. I stop waving. Just stand there on the catwalk, watching the boat retreat upriver, watching my one chance at rescue disappear around the river bend. The bridge deck locks horizontal with a final massive clang. The mechanisms fall silent except for the residual settling sounds, pings and creaks as everything adjusts to the new position. I've reconnected the shores. The infected can cross now, and I'm still trapped up here, 60 feet above a bridge that's now a pathway for the dead. I walk back into the control house on numb legs, close, and lock the door. Slide down with my back against it until I'm sitting on the floor. Don't cry. I've moved past crying. I just sit there, staring at nothing while the infected below begin to explore their newly accessible bridge. The infected figured out the bridge within an hour. I watched from the southern window as they crossed from both shores, meeting in the middle of the now horizontal deck. I expected violence, some kind of territorial conflict, but that's not what happened. They just coexisted, mixed together, became one larger horde instead of two separate groups. Now, there are hundreds of them on the bridge deck below me. The roadway has become a staging area, a gathering point. They mill around the abandoned vehicles, flowing around obstacles like water around rocks. I've made everything worse. The realization settles over me like a physical weight. I lowered the bridge for nothing. The boat didn't stop, didn't help, and now I've created a super highway for the infected. If there were any survivors on the eastern shore, any pockets of people hiding out in the suburbs, I've just made their situation infinitely more dangerous. The flags still hang from their mounts, red, yellow, white, and the checkered pattern I never finished securing properly. They snap in the wind, announcing my presence to a world that doesn't care. I should take them down. They're not helping. They're just making me a target. But I don't have the energy. I sit in the wooden chair instead and stare at Margaret's gear assembly and try to figure out what I'm going to do now. The answer, of course, is nothing. There's nothing to do. I'm still trapped. I still have no food. I still have limited water. The only thing that's changed is that I've proven conclusively that rescue isn't coming. That boat had room. I could see it. There were only 2 people aboard, and it was a decent-sized vessel. They could have stopped. Could have figured out some way to extract me from the tower, thrown me a rope, brought the boat close enough to the tower base for me to climb down, something. Instead, they ran. I understand why. I do. Stopping means risk, means complications, means spending time in one place while the infected swarm. It's logical to leave the stranded bridge operator and keep moving to wherever they're trying to go. Understanding doesn't make it hurt less. The sun climbs higher. Through the eastern window, I can see the suburbs in detail now. There's a neighborhood visible about half a mile from the shore, neat rows of houses, tree-lined streets, cars and driveways. It looks almost normal from this distance if you ignore the broken windows and the open doors and the complete absence of any sign of life. I grew up in a neighborhood like that. Different city, same aesthetic. My childhood home had a maple tree in the front yard that turned brilliant red every October. My mom would make us rake the leaves into piles, and then my sister and I would immediately jump into them, scattering them everywhere. I wonder if my family made it. They live in Oregon now, on the coast. Mom and Dad retired there 5 years ago. My sister moved out there with her husband and their 2 kids. They were always trying to get me to visit, and I kept saying I would once I saved up enough money, once I got some time off work. I never made it. The last time I talked to my mom was 3 days before everything collapsed. She called to tell me about my nephew's soccer game. He'd scored 2 goals. She was so proud, went on about it for 20 minutes. I was half listening, doing something on my laptop, giving her the, that's great mom responses that I'd perfected over the years. I'd give anything to hear about that soccer game again. I don't know if they're alive. Oregon is a long way from here. Maybe the infection spread slower out there, or differently. Or maybe they had better warning. Maybe Dad got the family into the car and drove inland, found somewhere safe. He was always good in emergencies, always had a plan. Or maybe they're dead. Maybe they're wandering around their retirement condo, infected and mindless. Or maybe they evacuated to the wrong place at the wrong time and got caught in the chaos. I'll never know. That might be the worst part of all this. Not the starvation or the isolation or the fear. It's the not knowing. The questions that will never be answered. A sound outside pulls me from these thoughts. Scraping metal, coming from the bridge deck. I move to the southern window and look down. The infected are doing something with the abandoned cars. Several of them are pushing a sedan, making it rock back and forth. As I watch, they manage to tip it onto its side. It crashes down with a noise that echoes across the water. Why? What purpose does that serve? But they're not done. More infected join the effort. They're pushing the overturned sedan now, sliding it across the roadway toward the edge, toward the railing. They can't possibly be trying to push it into the water. That would require coordination, planning, problem-solving abilities they shouldn't have. The sedan reaches the railing, stops. The infected continue pushing. Metal screams as the car goes up and over the railing. It drops 60 feet and hits the water with an enormous splash. I watch it sink, dumbfounded. They cleared an obstacle. They wanted the roadway space, so they removed the obstacle. That requires cognitive function beyond basic hunting and feeding. I've been assuming the infected are mindless, running on pure instinct, attacking anything that moves, like zombies from the movies. But what if that's wrong? What if they're retaining some capacity for thought, for problem solving? That's worse, so much worse. If they can learn, can plan, can work together toward goals, then there's no waiting this out. There's no hoping they'll eventually decay or disperse or starve. They're evolving, adapting, becoming something new. As if responding to my thoughts, several infected on the bridge deck suddenly stop moving. They're standing perfectly still, heads tilted, like they're listening to something. Then, in unison, they all turn and look up at the control house. At me. I step back from the window instinctively, heart hammering. They can't see me through the glass, can they? It's too far, the angle is too steep, but they're still looking. All of them now, dozens of infected standing motionless on the bridge deck, faces turned upward toward this tower. Sarah is down there, the one missing an arm. She's staring up with the rest of them. And I swear she's looking directly at the southern window where I was standing seconds ago. I stay back from the glass, watching from the side. Minutes pass. The infected don't move, just stand there in their eerie vigil, attention fixed on the control house. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stops. They resume their aimless wandering like nothing happened. The moment passes, but I'm shaking, because that wasn't random. That was a response to something. To me, moving in the window, or to some signal I can't perceive, or to... I don't let myself finish that thought. Instead, I do what I always do when the fear gets too big. I check the mechanisms. I circle the control house interior, examining every gauge and gear. I oil Margaret's teeth even though I oiled them yesterday. I adjust cable tensions that don't need adjusting. I clean surfaces that are already clean. Routine, normalcy, control over something, even if it's just bridge mechanisms in a tower I can never leave. The water supply catches my eye. It's getting low. I have maybe 2 gallons left, spread across multiple containers. That's maybe 10 days if I ration carefully, less if the weather stays cold, and I need more to combat dehydration from shivering. It hasn't rained in 6 days. I need rain, need it desperately. But the sky through the northern window is cloudless, that deep November blue that usually means cold and dry for days to come. I allow myself to think about thirst, real thirst, the kind that's coming if it doesn't rain soon. I've been moderately thirsty before, forgot my water bottle on a hot day, worked out too hard without hydrating properly. This will be different. This will be the kind of thirst that drives people insane, that makes you think drinking seawater is a reasonable choice, that shuts down your kidneys and your brain and eventually your heart. I've read about it. Back in college, I took a wilderness survival course as an elective. The professor was ex-military, had stories about desert training that made everyone uncomfortable. He told us that severe dehydration is one of the worst ways to die because you stay conscious almost to the end. You feel everything, the confusion, the muscle cramps, the organ failure. I pushed the thoughts away. No rain yet doesn't mean no rain ever. Weather patterns change, storms come. I've collected rain 11 times so far. I'll collect it again. I have to. The afternoon stretches into evening. The sun tracks across the sky, visible through the western window, sinking toward the ruined city skyline. The infected on the bridge deck begin to quiet as darkness approaches. Some of them settle into stationary positions. Others continue their slow patrols. Doug is still visible on the eastern shore, still walking his route. Consistency. He's been doing that patrol for 64 days without deviation. Whatever fragment of his former self remains, it's locked into that pattern. I eat nothing because I have nothing to eat. I drink my evening water ration, 3 sips that feel painfully inadequate. My stomach has stopped complaining about hunger. That happened around day 40. Now, there's just a dull ache, a constant presence that I've learned to ignore. I'm wasting away. I know this. I can feel my body consuming itself, burning through fat reserves that are long gone, starting on muscle tissue. My arms look skeletal when I roll up my sleeves. My ribs are clearly visible through my shirt. How long can a human body survive like this? I've lost track of the exact physiology. Weeks, certainly. Maybe months if there's water. But at what point does the damage become irreversible? At what point does malnutrition destroy enough organ tissue that even rescue and proper nutrition can't save you? I might already be past that point. The thought should terrify me, but instead I feel oddly calm. If I'm already dying, then the pressure is off. No more decisions about rationing or survival strategies. Just the slow wind down, the gradual shutdown of systems. But that calmness is dangerous. I recognize it from the wilderness survival course. The professor called it give-up-itis, the psychological state where you accept death and stop fighting. People in survival situations who develop it die even when they have the resources to live. The mind gives up and the body follows. I can't let that happen. I stand up from the chair, slow, because standing too fast makes me dizzy now, and walk to the northern window. The river is dark, reflecting the last light from the western sky. Somewhere upstream, that boat is continuing to wherever it's going. Somewhere downstream, the river flows to the ocean. The ocean is maybe 80 miles from here. If I could reach it, if I could get to the coast, there might be islands, offshore platforms, places the infected can't easily reach, places where people might have established safe zones. 80 miles might as well be 8,000. I press my forehead against the cold glass and close my eyes. Behind my eyelids, I see my mom's maple tree, brilliant red leaves against October blue sky. My sister and I jumping into the pile we were supposed to be bagging. My mom pretending to be mad but laughing anyway. Simple happiness, the kind that seems impossible now. When I open my eyes, the stars are coming out. The Milky Way is visible for the first time in months. No light pollution anymore to wash it out. It stretches across the sky, billions of stars that don't care about infected or survivors or one dying bridge operator in a Victorian tower. The universe is very large, and I am very small, and none of this matters on any cosmic scale. But it matters to me. I turn away from the window and prepare for another night. Canvas tarp wrapped around my shoulders. Wooden chair positioned so my back is supported. Hands tucked into my armpits for warmth. The infected below are mostly quiet now, just the occasional sound of movement, of something being knocked over, of that wet breathing that never quite stops. I don't sleep. Not yet. Instead, I run through scenarios in my head, escape plans that have no chance of working, that I map out anyway, because thinking about possibilities is better than thinking about inevitabilities. Scenario 1. I construct a rope from the steel cable in the maintenance kit, rappel down the exterior of the tower to the bridge deck, somehow fight through hundreds of infected to reach the shore, somehow find a vehicle that works, somehow drive to safety. Probability of success, essentially 0. Scenario 2. I wait for another boat, signal successfully this time. Convince them to stop, manage the complex extraction from tower to water level. Probability of success, low, but not 0. Scenario 3. I survive on water and hope until someone, military, government, other survivors with resources, decides this bridge is strategically important and comes to secure it, finds me in the process. Probability of success, unknown. Scenario 4. I die in this chair in a few weeks from starvation and dehydration, and the control house becomes my tomb. Probability increasing daily. I catalog my assets, the tools, the remaining water, the signal flags, the bridge mechanisms themselves, the catwalk, and the exterior structure. My engineering knowledge, my determination. It's not much, but it's not nothing. Sleep takes me eventually, pulling me down into dreams about food and family and a world that still makes sense. I wake up to the sound of rain. Day 65. The rain is coming down hard, drumming on the roof of the control house, streaming down the windows. I'm awake and moving before my brain fully processes what's happening, unlocking the eastern door, stepping onto the catwalk into the downpour. It's freezing. The rain is barely above sleet, stinging where it hits exposed skin. I don't care. I'm placing every container I own along the catwalk, angling them to catch maximum water. The bucket from the utility closet, the thermos, the coffee cups, the metal toolbox, 2 empty lubricant cans I've cleaned out, a steel mixing bowl I found behind the control panel. Every vessel that can hold liquid, I set out in the rain. The water is clean, fresh. Coming down from clouds that formed over the ocean, picked up no contamination from the dead city. This is salvation, at least temporary salvation, and I stand in it with my face tilted up and my mouth open, letting it run down my throat. I'm soaked within seconds, my clothes plastered to my body, water running into my eyes, my hair hanging in wet tangles. I've never been so cold, and I don't care because it's water, it's life, it's time. The containers fill slowly. I watch them, paranoid that they'll tip over or blow away. But they hold. The rain continues for 3 hours. I track it by the mechanical clock on the western wall, an old wind-up timepiece that someone mounted here decades ago and that I've been maintaining because having an accurate time reference helps with the sanity. 3 hours of rain. I estimate maybe 5 gallons collected, spread across all the containers. That's weeks of water if I'm careful. Weeks of continued survival. When the rain finally stops, I bring everything inside carefully, one container at a time. I line them up along the northern wall where they were before. The water is clear, maybe slightly gray from sitting in containers that aren't perfectly clean, but safe enough. Better than mosquito larvae water. I allow myself an extra sip. Just one, as a celebration. The water is cold and tastes like metal, and nothing has ever been more delicious. My clothes are still soaked. I strip them off, everything except my underwear, and hang them from various brass fittings around the control house to dry. The canvas tarp becomes my clothing until things dry out. I wrap it around myself and sit in the wooden chair and feel almost warm, almost comfortable, almost human. The rain has cleared the air. Through the windows, visibility is incredible. I can see details of the city I haven't been able to make out in weeks. Individual buildings downtown, the clock tower on the old courthouse, the spire of St. Michael's Cathedral. All empty, all silent. No lights, no movement except for the infected wandering the streets. The bridge deck below is slick with rain. The infected are moving less, like the weather affects them somehow. Sarah is standing near the overturned ice cream truck, completely still, rain running off her in streams. Doug has stopped his patrol and is just standing on the eastern shore, facing the river. They look almost peaceful. I know that's an illusion. They're not peaceful. They're apex predators in a world that no longer has any defense against them. If I went down there, if I somehow survived the descent and walked among them, they'd tear me apart without hesitation. But from up here, in this moment, with fresh water secured, and the rain-cleaned air, and the brief respite from the grinding desperation, I can almost pretend the world isn't ending. The pretense lasts about 10 minutes. Then, I notice the smoke. It's coming from the eastern suburbs, from the neighborhood I can see through the eastern window. Black smoke, thick and oily, rising in a column that the wind is bending toward the south. Something is burning. Something big. I watch it for an hour. The smoke continues, never diminishing. Whatever is on fire has enough fuel to sustain combustion for a long time. A house, maybe. Or several houses. Or a warehouse, a store, something with flammable contents that caught and spread. The question is, what started it? Lightning from the storm seems unlikely. The rain would have put out any lightning-caused fires. Electrical short? Possible, but the power has been out for almost 2 months. Even backup systems would be dead by now, which leaves either spontaneous combustion, not impossible but rare, or human activity. Other survivors. Someone might be alive in that neighborhood. Someone might have started a fire for warmth or cooking or signaling. Someone might be out there, close enough that I can see their smoke. The excitement that surges through me is painful. Other people, not just me, not just the infected, but actual living humans trying to survive. I need to signal them, need to let them know I'm here. The flags are still flying from the catwalk mounts, but smoke means they might not be looking at the river, might not see the flags. I need something more direct, something that creates smoke or light visible from the eastern suburbs. I have nothing that burns well. The control house is mostly metal and glass. The wooden chair, the wooden door, the maple wall panels, all are too useful to destroy, and burning them would create smoke inside the control house that might kill me faster than the starvation. The signal flags themselves? They're cloth. They'd burn. But they're also my primary signaling method for boats on the river. Destroying them for a one-time smoke signal seems wasteful. Unless the people in the eastern suburbs are my only chance. Unless boats aren't coming back, I pace the control house, thinking. The smoke from the suburbs is still rising. Whatever is burning is a sustained fire, not a quick flash. These people, if they are people, know what they're doing. I make a decision. I'm going to create the brightest light I can. Tonight after dark, and hope they see it. The emergency LEDs in the control house run on batteries that are half dead, but they still work. If I take them outside, mount them on the catwalk facing east, they'll be visible for miles in the darkness. It's not much, but it's something. The afternoon passes slowly. I watch the smoke until it finally dies down around 4 p.m. Whatever was burning has burned out or been extinguished. I can't see any other signs of activity in the suburbs. No movement, no lights, nothing. But they're there. I'm sure of it now. People, survivors, maybe just one person, maybe a group. Either way, they're proof that I'm not the last one left. My clothes are mostly dry by evening. I put them back on, damp and cold, but wearable. The sun sets through the western window, turning the ruined city into a silhouette against orange and red sky. I eat nothing because I have nothing to eat. I drink my evening water ration, 4 sips this time, because I can afford to be slightly less strict with 5 gallons in storage. The extra sip makes me feel almost extravagant. When full darkness comes, I prepare the signal. The emergency LEDs are mounted on the walls in 4 locations, 1 per wall. They're basic LED panels, maybe 6 inches square, designed to provide enough light for emergency bridge operation if the main power fails. I unscrew the eastern panel from its mount. The battery pack is attached to the back, heavy, probably 12 volts, rechargeable but not recharged in 2 months. I flick the switch. The LEDs light up, bright white light that makes me squint. The battery indicator shows about 40% charge. That means maybe 2 hours of continuous operation. Good enough. I carry the panel outside to the catwalk. The night air is even colder than the day, hovering just above freezing. The catwalk railing is slick with condensation. Above, the stars are out again, the Milky Way a river of light overhead. I mount the LED panel on the railing, angled toward the eastern suburbs. The bracket from one of the signal flags works perfectly for this. The panel sits secure, facing the right direction, pumping light out into the darkness. From down here, I can't see what it looks like from the suburbs, but I imagine it. A bright point of light in the darkness. Impossible to miss, clearly artificial. A beacon saying, someone is here, someone is alive. I leave it running. 2 hours of battery life means it'll die around 11 p.m., but that's fine. That's 2 hours of signal, 2 hours of hope that someone in those suburbs will look toward the river and see. Back inside, I position myself at the eastern window and wait. The infected on the bridge deck have noticed the light. Several of them are gathering on the eastern side, staring up at the LED panel. They're not trying to climb. The tower structure is too smooth, offers no handholds. But they're interested, attracted to the light like moths. More infected are coming, drawn from the bridge approaches, from the shores, converging on the tower base. Within an hour, there must be 50 of them clustered directly below, all staring up at the light. This might have been a mistake. I'm drawing every infected in the area directly to my location. If enough of them gather, if they start trying different approaches, they might find a way up. They cleared a car off the bridge deck. They can problem solve. What if they figure out how to stack debris, build a ramp, create access? But it's too late now. The signal is running. All I can do is watch and wait. 11 p.m. comes. The LED panel dims and dies, battery exhausted. The sudden darkness is absolute. The infected below mill around for a while, confused by the loss of light, then gradually disperse back to their aimless wandering. I saw no response from the eastern suburbs. No return signal, no lights, nothing. Either they didn't see it, or they saw it and chose not to respond, or there's nobody there, and the fire was natural after all. I try not to let the disappointment crush me. I try to focus on the positives. I have water now, lots of water. That buys me time. Time for another boat to come upriver, time for weather patterns to change, time for something to shift in this impossible situation. But the disappointment is there anyway, sitting heavy in my chest. I wrap myself in the canvas tarp and settle into the wooden chair for another night. The control house is pitch black with the emergency LED removed. I can't see my hand in front of my face, just the faint outline of the windows slightly less black than the interior, showing me the stars outside. Sleep doesn't come easily. I'm too cold, too disappointed, too aware of the infected gathered below. But eventually exhaustion wins and I drift off, uncomfortable and restless. I dream about the suburbs, about walking through those tree-lined streets, knocking on doors, finding houses full of people who survived. They welcome me in, give me food and water and a real bed. Someone's grandmother makes soup. Someone's kid shows me their collection of comic books. Everything is warm and safe and normal. Then, the infected break through the door, and the dream turns into nightmare, and I wake up gasping, disoriented, not sure where I am. The control house. Always the control house. The prison I can't leave. Gray dawn light is starting to show through the eastern window. Day 66 is beginning. I check the water supply first thing. Still there, still safe. 5 gallons minus yesterday's rations. I allow myself 3 sips for the morning, holding each one in my mouth, savoring it. Then, I check the mechanisms. Margaret's gears are fine. The cable tensions are good. The hydraulic gauges show normal pressure. Everything is functioning exactly as it should, maintaining a bridge that nobody needs, that serves only to connect 2 shores full of the dead. I'm heading back to the eastern window when I see it. On the eastern shore, right at the bridge approach, someone has placed a large white sheet. It wasn't there yesterday, I'm sure of it. I've been watching that exact spot for 65 days, and there was no white sheet. Someone put it there during the night. Someone in the suburbs saw my light, and this is their response. I'm at the eastern window in 3 steps, pressing my face against the glass, staring at the sheet. It's big, maybe 8 feet square, spread out on the ground and weighted at the corners with what look like rocks. In the center of the sheet, someone has painted or drawn something in black. I can't make out the details from this distance. The angle is wrong, and my eyes aren't what they were after weeks of malnutrition. But there's definitely something written or drawn on that white sheet. A message for me. I need to see what it says, need to read it clearly. But from this angle, from this distance, it's impossible. Unless I run to the maintenance kit, pull out the hand-crank drill. Attached to it, stored in the same drawer, is a set of drill bits in various sizes. And beneath those, wrapped in oiled cloth, is something I'd forgotten about. A small brass telescope. It's old. Probably original to the 1889 construction, kept here for the bridge operators to watch river traffic. The brass is tarnished. The leather wrapping on the tube is cracked and peeling. But the lenses might still work. I take it to the eastern window, extend it to full length, and look through the eyepiece. The image is blurry at first. I adjust the focus, my hands shaking with excitement and weakness. The white sheet comes into view, growing clearer. The message is written in large black letters. Paint or charcoal, it's hard to tell. The handwriting is rough but legible. It says, "We see you. Stay alive. Working on plan." I read it 3 times, making sure I'm not hallucinating, not projecting what I want to see onto random marks. But no, it's real. The message is real. We see you. Stay alive. Working on plan. Someone is out there. Multiple someones based on the we. They saw my light. They know I'm trapped here. And they're working on a plan to help. I sit down hard on the floor. Telescope still clutched in my hands, and for the second time in 66 days, I cry. But this time, it's not despair. It's hope. Day 71. 6 days since the message appeared. 6 days of watching that white sheet on the eastern shore, checking it every morning to see if it's changed, if there's new information. It hasn't changed. Same message. We see you. Stay alive. Working on plan. But other things have changed. The infected are thinning out. Not just on the bridge deck. Everywhere. I count them every morning now. Track the numbers carefully. 6 days ago, there were 212 infected visible from the control house. This morning I counted 143. They're leaving. migrating somewhere, or dying, though I don't see bodies. They're just gone. Doug is still on the eastern shore, still doing his patrol. Sarah is still near the ice cream truck. My regulars, my known quantities. But the crowds are diminishing, and I don't know why. I've been watching the suburbs for signs of my rescuers. Haven't seen any direct activity, but there have been indications. On day 68, I saw a movement in one of the houses, curtains shifting in a second-floor window. On day 69, someone did something to the roof of a building near the water, installed some kind of structure I can't quite make out even with the telescope. They're there. They're planning. I just don't know what they're planning. The waiting is excruciating. My body is continuing its slow decline. I'm weak enough now that climbing up from sitting position requires me to pull myself up using the control panel or the window frame. My legs shake after standing for more than a few minutes. I'm cold all the time, even during the day when the sun is shining. The water supply is holding. I'm down to about 3.5 gallons, but my consumption has decreased as my activity level has dropped. Dehydration is still a threat, but not an immediate one. Food, though. The lack of food is catching up to me in new ways. My gums started bleeding 3 days ago. Just a little at first, noticeable when I ran my tongue over my teeth. Now it's constant, a metallic taste in my mouth that never goes away. Scurvy, probably. Vitamin C deficiency. My body is breaking down at the molecular level. My hair is falling out. Not in clumps, just more than normal. I find strands on my shoulders, on the canvas tarp, caught in the collar of my jacket. Protein deficiency, most likely. The body cannibalizing anything non-essential. I have sores on my skin that aren't healing. Small cuts and scrapes that would normally close in days are still open after a week. My immune system is shutting down, unable to spare resources for routine maintenance. I'm dying by degrees. But I'm staying alive, because the message said to stay alive, and if they're working on a plan, I need to survive long enough for that plan to happen. I've been running scenarios in my head, trying to figure out what they might be planning. The most obvious approach would be a boat. Bring a vessel to the base of the tower, throw me a rope or a ladder, extract me quickly before the infected can respond. But the river current is tricky here, and the tower structure doesn't have good access points for a boat to moor. Another option, some kind of bridge from the eastern shore. If they have materials, they could potentially construct a walkway from shore to the bridge deck, and from there, what? I'd still need to descend from the control house, which means climbing down 60 feet of tower structure with no proper handholds in my weakened state. Or maybe they're planning to clear the infected entirely. A coordinated assault to eliminate the horde, make the area safe enough for a conventional rescue. That would require weapons, organization, probably more people than I've seen any sign of. I don't know. All I can do is wait and trust that they know what they're doing. On day 70, it rained again. Not as much as last time. Just a brief shower that lasted maybe an hour. But I collected another gallon, bringing my supply back up to 4.5 gallons. The rain felt like a gift. Like the universe saying, "Not yet, you can keep going." I've been spending more time on the catwalk despite the cold. Something about being outside, even though outside is just a narrow iron platform 60 feet above death, makes me feel less trapped. I watch the river flow past, carrying debris, branches, trash, sometimes larger objects I can't identify. I watch the birds, the crows, and gulls that have learned to scavenge in this new world. I watch the sun move across the sky, marking time. The mechanical clock stopped working on day 68. I forgot to wind it, or maybe I wound it wrong. Or maybe it just finally gave up after running continuously since whenever it was installed. Without it, time becomes more subjective. Morning is when light comes. Evening is when light goes. The hours in between blur together. I think I'm losing my grip on reality a little bit. Small things seem profoundly important. The pattern of frost on the windows, the exact angle of morning light, the number of rivets in Margaret's housing. I spend an hour studying the grain pattern in the wooden chair, tracing the lines with my finger, seeing faces and landscapes in the whorls. Then, I'll have moments of perfect clarity where I recognize how strange my behavior has become. I'll stop mid-action, frozen, aware that I'm talking out loud to bridge mechanisms or arranging tools in patterns or standing on one foot for no reason. Isolation does things to the brain. Starvation does things to the brain. Combine them, add in trauma and fear, and the constant stress of survival. And the brain starts creating its own entertainment, its own structure. I'm aware of this happening. That awareness doesn't stop it. This morning I had a full conversation with my sister. She wasn't here, obviously, but I could hear her voice clearly in my head, asking me about work, about my apartment, about whether I'd met anyone interesting. I answered out loud, told her about the bridge, about the Victorian mechanisms, about how Margaret needs her gears oiled regularly to function properly. She told me I should quit and move to Oregon. The weather is better, the cost of living is cheaper, the kids would love to see me more often. I told her I'd think about it. Then, I realized I'd been standing at the northern window for 20 minutes, having a conversation with someone who wasn't there, and I couldn't remember deciding to start talking. Not great, not a good sign, but I'm alive, still alive. That's what matters. The sun is setting now through the western window. Day 71 sliding into night. The infected below are settling into their evening patterns. Less movement, more standing around. The horde is definitely smaller than it was, maybe 100 infected total visible now. Where are they going? Are they drawn to population centers, searching for prey? Are they following some migration instinct? Or is their condition progressing? Are they dying finally, their bodies breaking down after weeks of infection? If they're dying, if the infection is terminal on a long enough timeline, then survival becomes a different equation. Outlast them. Stay alive longer than they stay functional. Turn this into a pure endurance contest. But that requires food I don't have, and a body that's already failing. I drink my evening water ration, 3 sips, held carefully in my mouth. The bleeding gums make the water taste like copper. Then, I settle into the chair, canvas tarp wrapped around me, and watch the stars come out. Tomorrow is day 72. One day closer to whatever plan my rescuers are working on. One day closer to escape or death, I'm not sure which. But I'm still here, still breathing, still hoping. That has to count for something. Day 75. Something is happening on the eastern shore. I spotted it at dawn, movement near the bridge approach, multiple figures working on something. I grabbed the telescope immediately, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it steady. There are 5 people. Real people, alive, moving with purpose and coordination. They're building something at the water's edge, maybe 30 yards from the bridge tower. I watch them through the telescope, drinking in details. 3 men, 2 women, all wearing heavy coats and work clothes. One of the men has a bright red jacket that makes him easy to track. One of the women has her hair in a long braid. They're carrying materials, long pieces of lumber, rope, what looks like metal pipe. They're building a raft. It takes me a minute to understand what I'm seeing, but once I do, the logic becomes clear. A raft can navigate the river current better than a regular boat. A raft can be built from scavenged materials. A raft can be poled or rowed close to the tower structure without needing a dock or mooring point. They're going to raft out to the tower and extract me. The realization hits me like a physical force. After 75 days, rescue is actually happening. Not theoretical rescue, not working on a plan rescue, but actual, physical, people with a raft rescue. I'm crying again. Seems like I cry a lot these days, which is embarrassing and wasteful of fluids, but I can't help it. Through the telescope, I watch them work. They're efficient, clearly experienced at construction, or at least good at figuring things out. The raft takes shape quickly. A rectangular platform maybe 8 feet by 6 feet, made from what looks like pallets lashed together with rope. They're adding barrels underneath for flotation, securing everything carefully. The infected are noticing them. A dozen or so have wandered over to investigate, attracted by the noise and movement. But the builders have anticipated this. 2 of them break off from construction to deal with the threat. I can't see weapons clearly through the telescope, but I see the infected go down, see the builders return to work. They're armed, they're organized, they know what they're doing. By mid-morning, the raft is finished. They test it at the water's edge, loading it with weight to check stability. It sits low in the water, but doesn't tip. One of the men, the one in the red jacket, gives a thumbs up to the others. Then they push it into the river and climb aboard. 4 of them on the raft. Red jacket, the woman with the braid, and 2 others. The 5th person stays on shore, armed, watching for infected. The raft has 2 long poles, one on each side. Red jacket and another man use them to push away from shore, fighting the current. The river is not calm. The current wants to push them downstream, away from the bridge tower. They're struggling. I can see the effort even from this distance. The raft rotates, gets pushed sideways, nearly tips when it hits a submerged obstacle. But they're good. They compensate, adjust, keep working. Slowly, painfully slowly, they angle toward the bridge tower. The infected on the bridge deck have noticed. They're swarming toward the eastern edge, clustering at the railing, staring down at the raft. There must be 40 infected gathered there now, watching. The raft reaches the tower. They can't get directly beneath me. The bridge deck structure blocks access to the tower base from the riverside. But they get close, maybe 15 feet away. Red jacket looks up, spots me in the control house window, waves. I wave back, frantic, excited, terrified. Red jacket cups his hands around his mouth and shouts something. I can't hear it through the glass. I unlatch the eastern window. Doesn't open far, just a few inches, an old safety feature to prevent operators from falling out. But it's enough. Hear me? Red jacket is shouting. Can you hear me? Yes, I shout back. My voice comes out raspy, weak from disuse. Yes, I can hear you. We're going to get you out, he yells. But we need you to do something first. Can you lower a rope? I don't have a rope long enough. The steel cable in the maintenance kit is maybe 20 feet, nowhere near enough to reach the raft. I don't have rope, I shout down. Just cable, not long enough. There's a consultation on the raft. The woman with the braid is pointing at something, explaining. Red jacket nods, looks back up at me. We're going to throw you a line, he shouts. When you catch it, tie it to something solid. We need an anchor point. I nod, understanding. They have rope. They'll throw it up to me. I'll secure it. And then... What? They'll climb it? Send me something? The specifics aren't clear. But that doesn't matter. I'll do whatever they need me to do. The woman with the braid is preparing the rope. She's tied something to the end of it, a weighted bag, I think, to give it mass for throwing. She tests the weight, measures the distance with her eyes. Then, she throws. The bag arcs up, spinning, trailing rope behind it. It's a good throw, strong and accurate, coming right toward the eastern window. But it's short. Falls maybe 10 feet below the control house level, drops into the water with a splash. The current catches the rope immediately, pulls it downstream. They haul it back in, hand over hand. The woman with the braid prepares to throw again. Second throw. Higher this time, better arc. The bag comes up, past the window line. And the wind catches it, pushes it sideways. It misses the window by 3 feet, hits the tower structure, falls. Third throw. She's aiming even higher now, compensating for wind. The bag soars up, and I lunge out the narrow window opening, reaching as far as I can, fingers grasping. And I catch it. The weight nearly pulls me out the window. I wasn't braced properly, and my weakened body has no reserve strength. For one horrible second, I'm tilting forward, the rope in my hands. The 60-foot drop yawning beneath me. Then, I fall backward into the control house, landing hard on the floor. The weighted bag thuds down beside me, rope still attached. I'm breathing hard, heart hammering. That was stupid. I almost died trying to catch a rope meant to save me, but I have the rope now. Thick, strong, braided synthetic. I pull it in, confirming there's plenty of length, more than enough to reach the raft. "Got it!" I shout out the window. "I have it!" "Tie it off!" Red Jacket yells back. "Something that won't move. Make it secure." I look around the control house. The strongest points are the gear assemblies. Margaret's housing is bolted directly into the tower structure, rated to handle tons of force. I wrap the rope around her housing 3 times, then tie it off with the best knot I know, a bowline. One of the few useful things I remember from the wilderness survival course. I pull test it. The rope holds. Margaret doesn't budge. It's solid. "Secured," I shout down. "Good." Red Jacket is doing something with his end of the rope, tying it to something on the raft. "We're sending up supplies, food and water first. Pull them up when you feel weight." Supplies. They're sending supplies. The word food echoes in my head, and I feel dizzy with anticipation. I position myself at the window, gripping the rope, waiting. After a moment, I feel weight. Something has been attached on the other end. I pull, hand over hand, hauling up whatever they've sent. It's heavy, or maybe I'm just weak. My arms burn with the effort. My hands, slick with sweat despite the cold, keep slipping on the rope. But I pull, keep pulling. The rope comes up foot by foot. A bag emerges over the windowsill, waterproof canvas, tied closed. I drag it inside, set it on the floor, look down at the raft. "Got it!" I shout. "There's more!" The woman with the braid yells. "Keep pulling!" I pull. Second bag comes up, third, fourth. By the time the 5th and final bag reaches me, my arms are shaking so badly I can barely grip the rope. But I have them. 5 bags of supplies. From people who crossed a river in a makeshift raft to help someone they've never met. "That's everything we can send today," Red Jacket shouts up. "We'll be back tomorrow, same time. Are you okay for now?" I want to tell them I love them. I want to tell them they've saved my life, that I'll never forget this, that I'm crying with gratitude and relief. But all I manage to shout back is, "Yes, thank you. Thank you." They wave, start poling the raft back toward shore. The current helps this time, pushing them downstream and east. I watch them navigate back to the shore, watch them drag the raft onto land, watch them gather their tools and materials. Then, I close the window and turn to the bags. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely untie the first one. But I get it open, and inside, food, real food. Packages of crackers, cans of soup, energy bars, dried fruit, nuts. Enough to fill the bag completely. I pull items out one by one, staring at them like they're precious gems. The second bag has water, bottles of clean water, at least 2 gallons worth. The third bag has medical supplies, bandages, antibiotic ointment, pain medication, vitamins, and a note, handwritten on a piece of paper: "Take 1 multivitamin daily. Eat small amounts frequently. Your stomach won't handle large meals. We'll have you out soon. Stay strong. Elena." Elena. The woman with the braid has a name. My rescuers have names, have faces, have enough compassion to risk their lives for a stranger. The fourth bag has warm clothing, a heavy winter coat, thermal underwear, wool socks, a knit cap, all clean, all in reasonable condition. The fifth bag has tools and equipment, a proper knife, a better flashlight than the one in the maintenance kit, batteries, matches in a waterproof container, an emergency radio. I sit surrounded by these treasures, these impossible gifts, and I don't know what to do first. Food. Start with food. Small amounts, the note said. My stomach has been empty for so long that too much too fast will make me sick. I open a package of crackers. Plain saltines, nothing fancy. I take one cracker, put it in my mouth, chew slowly. The taste explodes across my tongue. Salt and wheat and texture and flavor. After weeks of nothing, it's overwhelming. I chew carefully, thoroughly, letting my saliva break it down completely before I swallow. I wait 5 minutes. The cracker stays down. No nausea, no cramping. My stomach accepts it. I eat another cracker and another. 4 crackers total. Then I force myself to stop, even though I want to devour the entire package. Water next. Clean, bottled water. I drink slowly, small sips, letting it wash away the taste of blood from my bleeding gums. Then, I just sit there, amid my supplies, and try to process what's happening. I'm going to survive this. After 75 days of slow starvation, after giving up hope multiple times, after preparing to die in this tower, I'm actually going to survive. They said they'll be back tomorrow, said they'll have me out soon. That means this isn't the end of the rescue. It's just the first step. They're working up to something bigger, some way to actually extract me from the tower. I don't know how they'll do it, don't know if it's even possible, but for the first time in months, I have reason to believe it might be. I put on the thermal underwear first, strip off my filthy clothes, throw them in the corner, put on clean layers. The warmth is immediate and incredible. Then the wool socks, the winter coat. I feel almost human again. I take a multivitamin with water, carefully repack the supplies, organizing them along the northern wall. Ration out my next small meal, 1 energy bar, broken into pieces, eaten slowly over the course of an hour. The sun is setting by the time I finish. Through the eastern window, I can see lights in the suburbs now, lanterns or flashlights, visible in windows of the house nearest the shore. My rescuers, settling in for the evening. I wonder what their story is, how they survived, why they decided to help me, what their situation is like. Tomorrow, when they come back, maybe I'll get to ask. For tonight, I have warmth and food and water and hope. After 75 days of having none of those things, it feels like a miracle. I wrap myself in the new thermal layers and the canvas tarp and settle into the wooden chair. My stomach is quietly processing the small amount of food I've given it. My body is already responding to the vitamins, the hydration, the calories. I'm still trapped in this tower. Still 60 feet above a bridge deck full of infected, still fundamentally in danger. But I'm not alone anymore. And that changes everything. Day 76. I wake up before dawn, and for the first time in months, I don't wake up hungry. My stomach has something in it. Not much, but something. The difference in how I feel is startling. I'm still weak, still malnourished. One day of small meals hasn't reversed weeks of starvation. But I'm better. Measurably, noticeably better. I eat a small breakfast, 3 crackers, 1/4 of an energy bar, water. I take my multivitamin. Then, I prepare for the day, for whenever my rescuers return. The morning is cold and clear. Through the eastern window, I can see activity in the suburbs, smoke rising from one of the houses. A cooking fire, probably. Movement near the water's edge where they launched the raft yesterday. They're preparing for another run. I should prepare too. If they're sending more supplies or if they're attempting the actual rescue today, I need to be ready. I gather my few belongings, the tools I've been living with for 76 days, the remaining water from my original collection, the canvas tarp that's been blanket and clothing and shelter. It all fits into one of the supply bags they sent. My entire life in this control house reduced to a single bag of items. Around mid-morning, the raft launches. Same 4 people as yesterday. Red Jacket, Elena with the braid, and the 2 others. They pole out into the current, fighting toward the tower. It goes faster today. They know the route now, know where the current is strongest, how to compensate. The raft reaches the tower in half the time. Red Jacket looks up, spots me in the window, waves. I wave back. "We're going to try something different today," he shouts up. "We need you to tie the rope off again, same as yesterday." I check the rope. Still secured to Margaret's housing, still solid. "Already done," I shout back. "Good. We're sending up a harness. Put it on. We're going to pull you up to the catwalk. Then you'll rappel down to the raft. The plan clicks into place in my head. They can't come up to me, so I have to go down to them. But I'm too weak to climb down on my own, so they'll help from below. Use the rope as a controlled descent line, with them managing the tension. It might work. It's risky. If I fall, if the rope breaks, if the infected interfere, but it might work. Weight appears on the rope. I pull, hauling up whatever they've sent. A climbing harness emerges, the kind rock climbers use. Straps and buckles and carabiners, all designed to safely support a person's weight. I've never used a climbing harness before, but the design is intuitive. Legs through the leg loops, waist strap around my middle, buckles secured. I check everything twice, then lean back slightly to test it. The harness holds. "Harness on!" I shout down. "Clip into the rope!" Elena yells up. "Use the carabiner!" There's a carabiner attached to the harness, a big locking one. I clip it to the rope, making sure it's secure and locked. Now I'm physically attached to the rope that's anchored to Margaret. "Clipped in!" "Good! Now you need to get to the catwalk. Go out the door and position yourself at the railing. We'll lower you down from there." I move to the eastern door. Unlock it, push it open. The cold morning air hits me, but I'm wearing the winter coat now, the thermal layers. It's bearable. I step out onto the catwalk carefully. My legs are shaky, from weakness, from fear, from the very real understanding that I'm about to trust my life to a rope and a group of strangers. But what choice do I have? Stay here and slowly recover on limited supplies until they run out? This is my chance. Maybe my only chance. I position myself at the railing, looking down. The raft is directly below, 60 feet down. The infected on the bridge deck have noticed the activity. They're clustering at the eastern edge again, reaching up with their hands, moaning. Doug is down there, and Sarah, my Constance, my known infected. They're watching me like all the rest. "I'm at the railing," I shout down. "Perfect," Red Jacket yells back. "On our count, you're going to climb over the railing, sit on the outside edge, keep hold of the rope, we'll control your descent." Climb over the railing, sit on the outside edge of a narrow iron catwalk 60 feet in the air. Trust that the rope will hold, that these strangers will manage it correctly, that I won't fall to my death or into the arms of the infected. My hands are gripping the railing so hard my knuckles are white. "I don't know if I can do this," I shout down, and it's true. The fear is overwhelming, paralytic. My body doesn't want to move. Elena's voice comes up clear and strong. "You've survived this long. You've been alone for 76 days. You can do this. We've got you." She's right. I've survived impossible circumstances. I've stayed alive through starvation and isolation and complete despair. I've fought for every single day. I can do this. I take a breath, grip the rope with both hands, swing one leg over the railing. The world tilts. My brain screams that this is wrong, that I'm going to die. But I push through, swing the other leg over. Now I'm sitting on the outside of the railing, nothing but air between me and the drop. "I'm over." My voice is shaking. "Good. Now lean back. Let the harness take your weight. We've got the rope. You won't fall." I lean back. The harness catches me. The rope goes taut. I'm suspended now, sitting on the edge of nothing, held by equipment I'm trusting with my life. "Let go of the railing," Red Jacket yells. "Hold the rope. We're going to lower you." This is the hardest part. Letting go. Trusting completely. I release the railing. My hands find the rope, grip it tightly. I'm not holding myself up. The harness is doing that. But having something to grip helps psychologically. "Okay," I shout. "I'm ready. Here we go. Nice and slow." The rope starts to move. I'm descending inch by inch, the tower structure sliding past me. Above, I can hear the rope grinding against the catwalk railing. Below, the raft is getting closer. I try not to look at the infected on the bridge deck. Try not to think about what happens if the rope breaks, if I swing into the tower structure, if anything goes wrong. Just focus on the descent, on the rope moving smoothly, on the harness holding. Halfway down now, 30 feet to go. The people on the raft are clearly visible. I can see their faces, see the concentration as they manage the rope. 20 feet. The infected are directly to my left, separated by maybe 15 feet of horizontal distance. They're reaching toward me, agitated by my movement. 10 feet. Almost there. The raft is right below me now. 5 feet. Red Jacket is reaching up, ready to grab me, to guide me in. And then the rope stops moving. I hang there, suspended 5 feet above the raft, not moving. "What's wrong?" I call up. No response from above. Below on the raft, Elena and the others are looking up, confused. Then I hear it. A grinding sound from the control house. Metal on metal. Something wrong with the mechanism. The rope is caught on something, or the anchor point is failing. Or the rope drops 3 feet all at once. I fall. Scream, slam into Red Jacket, who catches me awkwardly. We both go down on the raft. It rocks violently, nearly capsizes, but it holds. We're on the raft. I'm off the tower. I made it. "Go, go, go!" Elena is shouting. The others are already pulling away from the tower, fighting the current, desperate to get distance. I look up. The rope is dangling from the control house catwalk, swinging in the wind. Something failed up there. The anchor point or the rope itself. I can't tell from here. But it doesn't matter. I'm off the tower. I'm on the raft. I'm being rescued. The infected on the bridge deck are losing interest as we pull away. The raft moves into the main current, starts angling toward the eastern shore. The people around me are working efficiently, managing the craft, navigating obstacles. Red Jacket helps me sit up. "You okay?" he asks. His face is kind, weathered, maybe 50 years old. "I think so," I manage. My voice sounds strange to my own ears. "Welcome back to the world," he says. "We're going to get you somewhere safe." The shore is approaching. I can see the person who stayed behind, a young man, maybe 20, holding a rifle, watching our approach. Beyond him, the house where they're staying. Solid ground, safety, other people. I made it. After 76 days in that tower, I actually made it. As the raft reaches the shore and hands reach out to help me off, I look back at the bridge one last time. The control house sits there, 60 feet up, windows glinting in the morning sun. My prison for 76 days. The place I was certain I would die. Margaret's gears are still up there, still maintaining the bridge. The canvas tarp, the wooden chair, the mechanical clock that stopped running. All the small details of survival. I survived. Against every odd, despite every setback, I survived. The ground is solid under my feet for the first time in 76 days. I take a step, nearly fall. My legs have forgotten how to walk on surfaces that don't sway, don't vibrate with bridge mechanisms. Elena catches me. "Easy," she says. "We've got you. You're safe now." Safe. Such a strange word in this world. But looking at these people who risked everything to save a stranger, I think maybe it's not completely meaningless. Maybe, just maybe, there's still hope. Still humanity. Still reasons to keep fighting. I let them help me toward the house, toward warmth and food and whatever comes next. The bridge stands behind us. A testament to Victorian engineering and one man's desperate will to survive. It'll be there long after I'm gone, after all of us are gone. The infected will wander across it, and the river will flow beneath it, and the control house will stand empty. But I won't be in it. I'm free. And that's enough. The house is warmer than I've been in months. They've got a fire going in the fireplace, actual wood burning, heat radiating. I sit as close to it as they'll let me, which isn't very close because Elena says gradual warming is important for someone in my condition. There are 7 of them total. I meet them one by one as they come and go from various tasks. Red Jacket is Marcus, Not the Marcus from the coffee shop who died on day 3, different Marcus. He's the leader, or as close to a leader as they have. 52. Former construction foreman, lost his family in the first week. He doesn't talk about how. Elena is 38, was a nurse before. She's the one who put together the medical supplies, who wrote the note about eating slowly. She's checking me over now, gentle but thorough, assessing the damage. The young man with the rifle is Tyler. 21, was in his second year of college studying engineering when everything collapsed. He's quiet, watchful, the designated lookout and defender. The other two from the raft are Jamal and Chen. Jamal is 45, taught high school history, has a calm demeanor that probably served him well in classrooms. Chen is 31, worked in IT, speaks rarely, but observes everything. The two who weren't on the raft are Marie and David. Marie is 63, former librarian, the group's organizer and supply manager. David is her husband, 65, retired electrician, the one who figured out how to set up their power system. 7 people who found each other, who've been surviving in this suburban neighborhood since the collapse, who decided that saving one stranger was worth the risk. You're severely malnourished, Elena says, finishing her examination. Vitamin deficiencies, muscle wasting, probably some organ damage. But you're going to live. With proper food and care, you'll recover. I'm going to live. Hearing it from someone with medical knowledge makes it feel real. They feed me carefully over the next hours. Small portions of soup, warm and salty and perfect. Crackers with peanut butter. Water, so much water. My stomach accepts it all, grateful. Between meals, they tell me about their situation. They've been here since week 2, when they all independently fled to this neighborhood and found each other by chance. The house we're in belongs to Marie and David. They live here year-round. The others moved in gradually, forming a community. They've fortified the house and 2 neighboring houses, set up rain collection systems, gardens that are dormant now, but grew vegetables through the summer. A supply network that involves careful scavenging runs to nearby stores and warehouses. The infected are a constant threat, but the numbers have been dropping. Marie has been tracking it. She keeps meticulous records, notebooks full of observations. The infected seem to be dying off, or migrating or something. The density in this area has decreased by about 60% over the past month. That's what made your rescue possible, Marcus explains. 2 months ago, there were too many of them. We couldn't have gotten a raft to the tower without being swarmed, but lately, it's safer. Still dangerous, but safer. I tell them about the tower, about the 67 days alone, the starvation, the isolation, about Margaret and the mechanisms and the slowly diminishing hope, about the boat that didn't stop, the helicopter that flew away. They listen with the kind of attention that says they understand. They've all lost people, lost normalcy, lost the world they knew. They get it. Why me? I ask. Why risk everything for someone you've never met? Marcus and Elena exchange a look. Then Elena answers, because we could, because you were there, and we had the means to help, and because that's what people do. Or what people should do. This world is awful enough without abandoning each other. Such a simple answer. Such a profound one. I sleep that night in a real bed. Clean sheets, a pillow, a blanket that doesn't smell like diesel and rust. The room is upstairs, a guest bedroom that belonged to Marie and David's daughter before she moved to California. There are photos on the wall of a young woman in various stages of life. I wonder if she's alive, if Marie and David will ever see her again. The bed is soft. Too soft, actually. After 76 days on a wooden chair, my body doesn't quite know what to do with a mattress. But I adjust, sink into it, let the warmth and comfort wash over me. I can hear the others downstairs. Quiet conversation, the clink of dishes being washed, normal sounds of people living together. Outside, the infected are out there somewhere. The world is still broken, civilization still collapsed. Nothing has fundamentally changed about our situation. But I'm not alone anymore. I'm not trapped. I'm not slowly dying in a Victorian control house while the world ends around me. I'm here, in a warm house, with people who chose compassion over self-preservation. It's not nothing. In a world full of infected and death and loss, that's actually everything. I close my eyes and sleep deeply for the first time in months. Day 90. 2 weeks since the rescue. 14 days of recovery, of slowly returning to something resembling human. My body is responding to proper nutrition. The bleeding gums have stopped. My hair has stopped falling out. I've gained back maybe 8 pounds. Mostly water weight at first, but now, actual muscle and tissue. I can stand without shaking, walk without getting dizzy, climb stairs without my legs giving out. Elena says another month of good food, and I should be mostly recovered. The organ damage will take longer, maybe permanent in some respects. But now I'm alive and improving, and that seemed impossible not long ago. I've been making myself useful where I can. My engineering background helps. I've been working with David on their power system, optimizing the solar panel array they've set up, fixing the battery connections that were corroded. It feels good to use those skills again, to solve problems that have solutions. I've also been helping Tyler with watch duty. We take shifts on the roof, scanning the neighborhood for infected or other threats. The numbers continue to decrease. Marie's counts show only about 40 infected in visible range now, down from hundreds when I first went into the tower. Something is happening to them. They're deteriorating, we think, moving slower, responding less to stimuli. The infection seems to have a terminal trajectory, not fast enough to save civilization, but maybe fast enough that survival becomes more viable. Maybe. The bridge is visible from the roof. I can see the control house, that 12 by 12 room that was my entire world for so long. Sometimes I watch it through binoculars, looking at the windows that I know so intimately. The southern window where I stood and watched the city die. The eastern window where I received supplies. The northern window where I spent hours watching the river. Margaret is still up there, still maintaining the bridge. The gears still turn slightly with temperature changes. The mechanisms still do their job, even though no one will ever operate them again. Part of me misses it, which is insane. I nearly died up there. I suffered more than I thought possible, but it was mine, my space, my survival, my victory against impossible odds. There's something about that which creates attachment. Chen says it's a form of trauma bonding. He's been reading psychology books from Marie's library, trying to understand what this apocalypse has done to our minds. He says it's normal to feel nostalgic for even terrible experiences once you're safe from them. I think he's probably right. The group dynamic here is good. Everyone contributes. Everyone has roles. There's surprisingly little conflict, though Marie says the first few weeks were harder, everyone adjusting to each other. By the time they reached stability, it was around week 4 of the collapse, and they've maintained it since. They have rules, informal but understood. Equal sharing of resources, decisions made by discussion and consensus, respect for privacy and space, honesty about fears and concerns. It works because everyone has bought into making it work. I've been trying to buy in too. To think of this as home, as permanent, as my new community. It's hard. Part of me is still in that tower, still in survival mode, still not quite believing I made it out. But I'm trying. We had a meeting yesterday about long-term plans. Winter is coming. We're already in late November. December approaches fast. The supplies we have will last maybe 4 months with careful rationing. The gardens won't produce until spring. We need protein sources. The canned goods will run out eventually. Marcus proposed a major scavenging expedition. There's a wholesale warehouse about 2 miles from here, across the river. If we could get there, get inside, we might find months' worth of supplies, food, medicine, tools, everything. But it means crossing the bridge, means going through areas with higher infected density, means risk. We voted. It passed 6-1. Only Tyler voted against, and only because he thinks we should wait until spring when the infected numbers might be even lower. We're planning it for 3 days from now. I volunteered to be part of the team. Elena tried to talk me out of it, says I'm not recovered enough. Not strong enough yet for that kind of exertion, but I convinced them I could handle it. I've survived this long. I can handle a supply run. Truth is, I need to do this. Need to prove to myself that I'm not broken, that the tower didn't leave me too damaged to function. Need to contribute something real to this group that saved my life. So in 3 days, 5 of us will cross the Morrison Street Bridge, navigate through the eastern city streets, and try to reach that warehouse. Marcus, Jamal, Tyler, Chen, and me. Marie, Elena, and David will stay back, maintain the house, be ready for our return. Or ready in case we don't return. I've been preparing, practicing climbing stairs with a weighted pack, doing push-ups and sit-ups, rebuilding muscle, eating as much protein as my ration allows, trying to add strength back to my frame. Elena gave me a knife, 8-inch blade, solid handle, leather sheath. It's the first weapon I've owned since this started. In the tower, I never needed a weapon. Nothing could reach me. But out there, in the world, I'll need to defend myself. I've been practicing with it. The weight, the grip, the motion of drawing and striking. I've never hurt another person in my life, never even been in a serious fight. But I've seen what the infected do. If it comes down to them or me, I won't hesitate. I hope I won't hesitate. Tonight is quiet. I'm on watch with Tyler, up on the roof, bundled in the winter coat, scanning the darkened neighborhood. The stars are brilliant overhead, the Milky Way a river of light. No moon tonight. It's a new moon. Pure darkness. Tyler is good company for watch. He doesn't feel the need to fill silence with talking. We just stand there together, watching, listening, occasionally pointing out movement or discussing what we see. You scared about the supply run? He asks eventually. Terrified, I admit. You? Yeah. But we need to do it. We can't just survive on what we have. We need to actually live. He's right. Survival isn't enough. We need to move towards something better, something sustainable. That means taking risks. You ever think about before? I ask. What you'd be doing if this hadn't happened? He's quiet for a moment. I'd be studying for finals right now. Probably stressed about some exams, some paper. Seems ridiculous, thinking about how worked up I'd get over grades. I'd probably be at work, I say. Operating the bridge for some barge, doing routine maintenance. Complaining about my paycheck. Would you go back? Tyler asks. If you could. Would you go back to before? It's a complicated question. Before was safe, comfortable, normal. But before also had its own problems. Loneliness, financial stress, the general anxiety of modern life. Would I trade the apocalypse to get that back? I don't know, I answer honestly. Some days, yes. Some days, I think this has made me stronger, shown me what I'm capable of. But mostly I just miss coffee. Good coffee, not the instant stuff. I'd trade a lot for one perfect cup of coffee. Tyler laughs. Reasonable. We fall back into silence, watch the stars, listen to the night. Somewhere out there, the infected wander. Somewhere out there, other survivors are probably having similar conversations. Somewhere out there, the world continues without us. But here, on this roof, in this moment, we're okay. We're alive. We have each other. 3 days from now, we'll risk that. We'll venture out into danger for the chance at something better. But tonight we're safe, and that's enough.